Hello, thanks to the power of the internet, I get to talk to you guys. And welcome to another installment of I'm entirely biased because I'm a Seka fan, and we're going over their support because it's just so much cooler than Alden. And Lyrical hasn't been revealed yet, even though August 2nd is her fight video. I would have thought that came out first, but God, I love this game. I truly do. This is Messiah Ezel. Brings a tear to my eye. And this SEC is so clean. But let's go over some of the support, shall we? So, of course, this is the grade 0. You will note that it's a very cool mech. This will most likely become my Brant starter for most, if not every deck. But it still does the same thing that everything else does. If you're going second, you draw a card. Welcome to Eno Progress. This one's kind of new. It still functions as the same way Brant does. It still gets you your order first turn. But this one is you reveal that you're playing the grade 3 from your ride deck, but then you put the system code X Creed token card in your order zone. So you're getting some deck space, which I hella appreciate, but I also see why. Here's system code X Creed, and the reason why it's probably a token is so this thing never stacks. Because you can't ride any grade 3 or higher card that doesn't include Impauldio, and you get to use the self-improvement gauge, which is this hold sticks mechanic and is really cool. When a card is placed from your into your damage zone during your opponent's turn, you take one card from drop and put it face up in your self-improvement gauge. So you would think like a maximum of 6. Don't forget, if you heal, you get more. So, and you choose one of your vanguards and it gets 5k. Hold on. Yeah. If it's 3 or less, you get 5k. Sorry. But if you have 4 or more, your vanguard also gets 5k. Meaning this is a nice defensive kind of thing for the self-improvement. You're always getting 5k. You know, if the damage check didn't reveal a trigger. I wish this stacked for every, 2 cards in your self-improvement. That would have been cooler. But this power does stack per every damage you get, so I kind of get why. Continuously going, though. Your grade 2 is pretty cool. When you ride the grade 3 on it, you can place a card from the top of your deck in the self-improvement gauge, then choose one card from your self-improvement gauge and add it to hand. You would kind of be a fool not to add one to hand, do that substitution, but also, I have found in a very few minimal playtests, let me remind you, that keeping it there sometimes isn't the worst thing in the world. And I'll get on to that why. Like, if an important piece is there, please go grab it. Or if you put the over-trigger in, take that shield back. But here we have the grade 1 Spacewalk Dragon. It's really simple. At the end of the turn, it boosted. If you have 2 or more in your self-improvement gauge, you throw this in Soul, and you choose a grade 1 or lower rear guard from your opponent and retire it. This is okay. I'm not running it at all. I wish it said countercharge, be in in-house boba, because this deck becomes very counterblast heavy. But I guess this is to specifically counter Nao's intercept restrictor. Going to one of the world's coolest grade 3, but I wish was a little different. During your turn, if you have 2 or more cards in your self-improvement gauge, it gets 5k, so it's 18. Not too bad. Persona Ride makes it 28, so you're at least saying 2 to pass. But when it does attack, if you have 4 or more cards in your self-improvement gauge and have not performed a drive check from a rear, you can counterblast 1, and it gets a drive check, but drive -1, so counterblast get 1 drive check. But if you have 8 or more in your self-improvement gauge, you cannot have your drives reduced by card effect, meaning you get twin drive on this rearguard attack for counterblast 1. That's pretty cool. The only downside is at the end of the battle, you have to bind this unit. I'm upset that it's binding. I understand why. I would have liked if it went face up in the gauge, because that's the whole deck's thing. It would make some sense. But it doesn't. Continuing. We have the grade 3 itself, Destined One of Exceedance, Impauldio. Counterblast 1, choose 1 card from your drop zone, place it face up in your self-improvement gauge, then look at the top 5 cards of your deck, get a unit card, grade 3 or lower, and call it a rear. And guess what? This unit gains, for every 2 cards in your self-improvement gauge, your front row gets 5k. So at this point, if you have taken at least 1 damage from being hit on your grade 2 turn, you throw 1 in with your grade 2. If you decide to keep it there, you're giving plus 5k to the front row. So, not too bad for your first grade 3 turn. And then the Divine skill, which I think is really cool. It is technically, if your opponent is grade 3 or higher locked. But if they decide to rush you down, it also works on 4 or more cards in your self-improvement gauge, meaning if they've done 3 damage to you, because of the ride line, 1 more card is in there, or, yeah, because this thing counterblast 1, put 1 in, you're at 4. Now, what is its Divine skill? Well, counterblast 1, discard a card from your hands. This thing goes critical and drive +2. Now, I know myself. If your grade 3 is out there, for counterblast 3, you get 5 drives. I'm going to whiff all of them. But yeah, this is a really cool Divine skill. I have a lot of fun with it. Now going on to the grade 2 that Alden wishes it had, because when it attacks Soul Blast 1, it gains 5k. If you have 5 or more gauge, it actually gets 15k instead of 5. But guess what? If you're 4 or more self-improvement gauge, anytime this thing enters the Guardian Circle, it gets plus 15k shield, making it a 20k Guardian. Alden's has to intercept to get that. This thing is just that. We got 1 more line of support. It's pretty fun. Self-improvement gauge. This card gets plus 10k power, meaning it's an 18k booster. Now, what is the deck list I'm running? Well, sadly, it is not on Card Fight Vang Pro at the time of recording this, so to have put into the Messiah allegations, that's what I'm putting in replacement for Impauldio stuff. So, all Persona rides, that grade 3 is the one that got drive checks, that generic grade 2 is your big booty shield. Of course, because this deck isn't touching energy, we got her, because it just makes sense. You need that card draw. This is a really fun combo because you're never touching the soul. You have Nebula just to get another plus 10k. If you got more in your self-improvement, that's pretty cool too. This thing can be a 40k attacker on a Persona ride with 4 in the gauge, which is your magic number. Sadly, it does have, at the end of the battle, this attack, counterblast, bind it, search your deck for 2 or greater blitz order without regalia, reveal it. If your drop zone has a blitz order, you may search for set instead. We're actually running a pretty fun blitz order. We have the Buster Barrage, which choose 2 grade 2s or greater units with different card names from drop and column of guard, and one of your units gets plus 10k until end of the battle. So if you remember that grade 2, which tab is it? This one. It's a 20k booster. You pull that from drop. This is already plus 10k, so that's 30, and you get one more thing, so you can just call, like, the grade 5 or any of your other things to get 35k guard off of one blitz order. Pretty nutty. Like, this blitz order alone has me questioning Elementaria and just running 4 base PGs just because I want to play with that blitz order more. But going off, the other support we have that is spicy, and why this deck needs a countercharger outside of Boba. He can't continuously pay for all of these. When this unit boosts at rearguard, if you Persona Row this turn, Counterblast 1, your opponent can't call a blitz order from hand, and they gotta do 2 or more cards at the same time. This is a great closer with the, where is it? This grade 3, because this gets a drive check, and if you already remember, it asks for Persona Ride, so this is 28 alone with the boost, that's 36. 2 or more cards from hand, and they're not allowed to Elementary or do any more of the blitz order shenanigans. Lascaria mains cry. And it also gets drive check, so worst comes to worst, this thing will be critical off of a crit you get from your opponent, well, your drive check, and just go ham from there. Of course, we're playing Boba. If you haven't noticed, this deck eats up Counterblast so quickly, so you kind of need it. I'm still testing around a little bit. For right now, I have Outer Space Guardian, because if it boosts a grade 3 or greater, meaning your Vanguard or the one that gets drive, and your opponent's grade 3 or greater, which sucks, you Soul Blast 1 and it's an 18k booster. I just wanted to use Soul. Technically, you could use this and get the same result. For shenanigan reasons, I am running Red OT. The OT you probably want to put in here the most is either purple to heal you, so you can take on more gauge, or blue OT to get you a piece back, like your 20k or your grade 3 that gets you a drive check. I have this in here because you already get some pretty massive rear guards. And if your opponent is thinking you're saving your drive check, well, now it just gets to attack again. I also like that if I did not choose a card, I draw one. And then I can call another rear guard to technically get a multi-attack. A lot of people are trying that old grade 2. That when it's discarded from hand, you can counterblast 1 and call it a rear. With the monster that when it boosts, you get 2k for each of your opponent's 2 or more grades. But you gotta discard a card, so it's that, get another attack. I am playing 7 crit, 4 heals. This deck should be playing draw triggers, but I've been experimenting with front triggers just to be, not even to get your rear guards bigger, just to be a more defensive deck, honestly. And I squeezed in Caliburn, or as I call it, Boba's Pot of Greed, because it either draws you 2 cards or feeds your soul, but countercharges you 1, which, if you haven't noticed, this is a very counterblast heavy deck. So my initial thought is this is really fun. It's a very control long game deck. And this honestly should have been the Destined One of Defense from how tanky it is. Sorry, Alden, you're not really what I expected. No. I want to choose the nice looking card, because this SEC is very clean. This deck still feels like it's missing a piece or two to be perfect, but outside of that, I am in total love with this, and I will be spending total lots of money, because I will be purchasing this SEC rarity. But yeah, I'm biased. I'm a Senka fan, because she's voiced by Misaki. And she just seems like a really cool character. So yeah, let me know what you think. And if you made it past my ramblings, I thank you.